Hi, everybody. Karen Roby here with Andy Wolber for TechRepublic, talking today about Google Classroom. If you're not familiar, you probably are hearing about Google Classroom now as we are all adjusting to this new norm with having kids working from home during their schoolwork. We're all working from home now. And this can be a difficult thing, Andy, for parents and for teachers alike, as we're trying to adjust to this idea of teaching our kids at home and turning in assignments and all of this stuff. It's a learning curve, and I can speak from experience with three kids at home as I'm trying desperately to figure all this out. So you've really are helping parents and teachers out here by you've put some great articles together, some videos. We're going to talk about all of that, but just off the start, give us kind of an overview of Google Classroom, what it is, and who this platform is for.
Well, Google Classroom really helps both teachers and students manage the whole workflow of creating assignments, grading assignments, and then for students, actually turning in those assignments and then being able to get feedback on material. So it sort of solves both pieces of that for the teachers who are trying to make the transition. Classroom is a great tool to be able to make all that work in a much easier manner than emailing each student individually. And so it really solves that system of distributing an assignment and then getting everything back. And then so each student can stay up to date as to where they are.
And I think that's the really cool thing about Google Classroom, what I'm learning, because I'm learning just like everybody is, Andy, as we kind of move along through this, is that the students, especially the older ones who are a little more tech savvy and have been working within Google and the Docs and probably have Chromebooks, a lot of them do already, so they can do their work. And for a lot of times the parents don't even need to worry about what they're doing because they know how to turn the assignments in, they know how to check grades, all of that kind of stuff. But obviously for the younger ones, the parents need to be much more involved and helping out on that end. So for the teachers, let's talk about them a little bit here. You put together this article that's great that covers several points, important things to keep in mind, when approaching Google Classroom. So let's just go through a couple of those, if you will, on that list there that were important points that you wanted to highlight.
Well, I think that teachers will learn all the mechanics of the tool. I have confidence in that. Most teachers are pretty good learners. The thing I want to emphasize really is that because this was really an unplanned transition to online learning, probably the most important thing that a teacher can do is be sensitive to student context. To the extent that is appropriate, I think it's helpful for a teacher to try to understand exactly what each of their students is dealing with. Some older students who are home from college may be in a place where they have fast internet, they have their own room, they have all the gear they had with them at college, and they've already learned how to study on their own. But not everyone is fortunate to have that. So I think teachers to understand that some students may also be in circumstances where they don't have internet at home, they're sharing a device with a sibling, and that they are in an environment where parents may be also busy struggling with other transition things. So I think really understanding the context that each student is dealing with is probably the most important thing. Beyond that, there may be some adjustments and tweaks that a teacher can make to rethink how they hand out their assignments given the changes.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that, well, you hit on it, everyone's circumstances are a little bit different, whether you've got an area where your kids can work and they have space to move out, or if you're all in one room, mom and dad possibly doing their work, and the kids at varying ages and levels are trying to do their work, and that's where it gets really tricky. And, one of the things that you hit on there is in terms of the devices that can be used for this, whether they're on an iPad, correct, or a smartphone. I mean, they can really access this from most places. Isn't that right?
Yeah, the good thing about Google Classroom is it really works well with most other G Suite tools. So most students probably at some point, if they've been using Classroom, have used Google Docs, or Google Drive in some way to work on documents and complete and turn in assignments. The Classroom app works in the web, in Chrome, the full Chrome browser, as well as on iOS, Apple mobile devices, and also there's an Android app. So because those apps all exist and they all work well, the two things I encourage teachers to think about in this as well are checking that assignments can be completed offline. And that means actually turning off your Wi-Fi or turning off your, putting your phone or laptop in airplane mode and seeing, can I actually complete this assignment if I were a student doing it that way? And similarly, make sure, grab a phone and make sure it can be completed on a phone. We have issues in the United States, at least, with about 15 to 20%, depending on the survey you look at, students not having access to high-speed internet at home. And also, unless your school has a one-to-one device, if people are sharing devices, they may have to, students may need to be working on devices other than, maybe their main typical device. So I really check to make sure an assignment can be completed on both offline and on a phone.
Very good. And when you think about the parents that are involved here, as you mentioned, the teachers are they're quick to learn things, and the tech end of this, that they're figuring it out, and we're moving through this. And from a parent's perspective, again, you've laid out some really good things to keep in mind and some ways to approach this. What would you say first off to a parent that is, looking at this thinking, I can't do this, or this is a whole new thing for me. I don't know how I'm going to grasp all of this. What would be the first thing you would say to a parent that's trying to tackle this?
Well, much like my first, advice to teachers, understand context, my first advice to parents is going to be remain in dialogue with your kids and your students' teachers. So one of the things that Classroom includes is the ability to get what Google refers to as Guardian email summaries. Guardian email summary can be set to be received on a daily or weekly basis. Couple things need to happen for that to be possible. A G Suite administrator needs to enable the feature, so someone in the school district needs to turn that on. And additionally, the teacher has to enable that feature for a class when they configure a class. So both of those things have to be true. But if they are, and I would encourage parents to reach out to teachers to inquire about this, a teacher can then add a parent's or guardian's email address, and then the parent can receive daily or weekly updates on upcoming class activities, upcoming assignments, missing assignments that may be helpful. That can provide some context for some basic discussion between a parent and a student about what's going on in a class. Obviously, I would expect parents to be a little more involved at the younger ages when students aren't maybe as aware or able to manage their own time as they are when they get older.
Yeah, and one of the things you talk about too, in terms of the additional apps for the.
Yeah. The other thing to consider as a parent is I would say sort of two other things. One is to install the apps. So work with your student to make sure that they have apps like Classroom, like Google Drive, like Google Docs, Google Meet, which was recently integrated into Classroom to support some video learning opportunities. But make sure that those apps are already on the student's phone, or that links are easily available in a browser, so that there's not a struggle with trying to work with a browser on a tiny device, and that makes it easier for the student to work. The other is to understand and maybe work a little with the student to know how to check on assignments. Within the classwork section of Google Classroom, there's a View My Work list that gives you access to all the assignments that you can take a look at. It'll show status, whether the teacher's given any sort of feedback or grades to those. It'll highlight in red those that are missing, which I'm sure no students will have. But but being able to review that. There's also a section, if you hit the little sort of 3-bar upper left additional menu and then look for a to-do option. To-do shows all sorts of assignments that are not yet done. So that's another tip in being able to get into the system and help a student navigate to understand what they need to yet learn and complete.
Very good. Yeah, that's some great advice, Andy. And I think, the biggest thing is we all know, even outside of this, just in general, is to show a lot of grace to each other. Whether you're the teacher in this scenario or the parent, the child in the middle, we all have to be patient with each other, right? Because this is, like you said, this was not a planned thing. That's for sure.
Yeah, this is an opportunity for teachers to, if they haven't already, learn a little bit more about how an online teaching and learning environment can work and tending that community with care. It's an opportunity for parents to get involved in a little bit more in a very direct way with their kids' education and learning and encouraging learning. And it's an opportunity for students to really learn some of these different tools that are going to be so important in their work life in the long run, since we're all having to figure out how to communicate by typing things with video and with other tools.
Yeah, most certainly. They look different for us now, but a lot of this will still be around even when we go back to normal, right? I think we'll be doing more Zoom type, meetings and things like that. And certainly schools will continue to integrate all of this going forward. So, so for parents and teachers alike, we've got some great resources I know that you've put together here, Andy. 2 different articles covering a lot of the things that we've talked about. And then also some separate videos kind of pointing where and showing some things in an interactive style there. All of that together on TechRepublic. So we certainly appreciate you doing that for all of us, because I know from a parent's perspective, I'm living it right now. It's not easy, right? We got to be patient with ourselves too.
Absolutely.
Well, all right.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk about Google Classroom.
Yes, most certainly. We're glad, and we'll check back in with you, of course, too, as we move through this, see how people are doing, and hopefully answer some of those questions that parents and teachers alike will have as we're adjusting to this. So again, thank you, Andy, and everyone. We appreciate you watching. We hope you'll check out all of this and much more on TechRepublic. Have a great day.